Best expansion of 2020.
Words matter.
Greg's butt.
Oh, shit.
My waistline, maybe? Best expansion.
All of our waistlines.
Yeah, from not going
the last
on,
9 months.
From not being on assignment.
Good lord.
Greg, I don't know, man. Every time you complain about your weight, you remind me of that super hot girl who's always like, "Oh, I'm so fat." Like, you are not that at all, dude.
You're a super hot girl, Greg.
Apparently, that's a super hot girl.
David, do you feel similar when I talk about feeling old?
I do.
Oh, I want to slap you so hard sometimes, Donovan. Oh my god.
Remember those sweet, warm New England summers? Remember sipping lemonade underneath a shady tree? Remember when you hit that pedestrian with your car at the crosswalk and then just drove away? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
You're just like
you guys. You gotta forgive Donovan because he's experiencing these feelings for the first time.
Shut up, Sam. You still have your youth too.
I genuinely felt like an old man when I saw they were making a live-action Clifford the Red Dog movie. Reboot.
Oh, shut up, Donovan.
Shut up.
People, calm down.
Shut your fucking title.
You know what, Donovan?
Donovan, were you born when Friends started?
Did Friends come out before 1998?
We were just talking about Pokemon Snap, about how Donovan wasn't even born when it came out.
Wait, Donovan, have you watched Seinfeld? It's on everything.
I have probably seen half of a couple episodes.
Okay.
Somewhere.
Let's move on. Let's just.
But I know Jerry Seinfeld though. Like, what's the deal with blah blah blah?
Okay, that's fair. You do get it.
People, calm down.
Best
expansion. Hey, this is an expansion to the discussion, right?
Yes.
So.
Yes, it sure is.
Do you want me to kick it off?
Yeah.
All right, I'll kick it off. And I'm gonna nominate Beyond Light, and I am going to speak to something that I think people are gonna argue against right away before they start over talking me, which is that yes, Destiny 2 removed a whole bunch of content from the game. That has nothing to do with Beyond Light. It's not part of the expansion. That happened whether you bought the expansion, played the expansion, or not. That was a game update, not an expansion.
Bill, I do have one genuine question for you though, and it's not like a let's dunk on Destiny 2 thing. Didn't Beyond Light get a lot of negative receptions from that community though? Like, didn't a lot of
you know what? You're right. It did in the first week, and then
because
we are a whiny bunch. You're right. So we started it up, and we were like, "Oh my god!" Like, everyone was focusing on things that were not there anymore. And it seems to have shifted way into the positive side lately because
it's the natural cycle of the community.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's any game community.
Do I recall them having to balance stasis out because it was like really overpowered in the first?
They did a little bit a balance update for stasis PvE. It was fine in PvE. Now, just to name off like what we have so far in the expansion, we have the new subclass, which is not nothing because we've gone through 6 years of Destiny. This is the start of year 7, Sam. Am I correct? Of the whole franchise? I think this is
2014, 7. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so this is year 7. We've gone through the entire history of Destiny wielding as light bearers. So the expansion is not only about the amount of content that's in it, but it's also a massive change in narrative and direction for it. So we're now embracing the darkness, which is essentially saying we're trying to fight fire with fire. Instead of trying to fight hate with love, we're fighting hate with a little bit of hate.
Yeah, it's like if we were using the good side of the Force and we're like, well, just a little bit of the dark side. Just a little bit of it's okay, we can control it.
So a dash of paprika.
It is very significant with the narrative because we are entering a spot now where we're genuinely wondering if we've always wondered, are we the bad guys? And now we're kind of the we are the bad guys. Like, there's no more questioning it. But so the stasis subclass is significant not only because it changes the minute-to-minute gameplay and the actual shooting mechanics or the subclass mechanics or the abilities, but it also has a huge impact on the story and the narrative of it. We have new story missions, which probably take, I don't know, the main story missions maybe 5 hours, but my quest log is still full of not grindy, but interesting things, full of lore, full of like rewarding and unique content. I put 25 hours into it in the last 2 weeks, and I have not even started to scratch the surface of catching up with everything that I want to do. Not stuff that's like go get 400 kills to like unlock this weapon, but like, you know, actually chasing narrative and reward. There's the new raid, which I have not personally played, so I'll let Sam talk about that in a minute. But I'd say we're probably looking at 50 to 100 hours of content in this expansion.
Wow.
When it's all said and done. And it's also taking, it's kind of, in this way, they've been going this direction for a while, but Destiny is now an evolving world. So I'm high on it off of what I've seen, but every week that I log in, there's like a new story or a new mission or a new quest or something that is pushing the world and changing the world as you play in it. It's always altering. It's not like you log in and everything is the same every week. Like you log in and things that you're working towards in your quest log actually have an impact on the universe and have an impact on the story. And they have even tied this into Guardians working as an entire unit. So like thousands of Guardians working together to complete tasks and things like that to change the world. But I think Sam should talk about the raid because he's beat.
Yeah, so before I touch on the raid, like one of the aspects of Destiny that was always a bit troublesome was the lack of solo player content for people to do by themselves. And Beyond Light introduced a new mechanic, a new activity, which without getting into the minutiae of it, for you guys who haven't played it, but basically one of the multiple zones in the area is on a cycle to be a harder version of itself, which gives solo players an opportunity to farm very powerful gear that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do by themselves without having to be randomly match made up with other people. So I jumped in there and just ran it like 12 times. Super challenging, but I got my reward, and so, you know, I walked out of that pretty happy. And the raid itself, probably one of the most mechanically impressive raids to date. The atmosphere, everything about it, everything about Destiny raids have always been really stellar, but this one is kind of a standout. A lot more people managed to complete it within the first 24 hours and had a lot more attempts than previous raid entries. And as Bill was saying, like, it's a massive paradigm shift in terms of the story and the narrative, and it's setting up a lot of chess pieces, and we've had a lot of payoff with some characters that we've known for a long time and have been waiting for a long time to see what was happening. People like Osiris and Saint 14 and the revelations there. We've got the Exo Stranger coming back in. All these people who, you know, you guys probably aren't familiar with, but for someone who's playing Destiny, like, yes, cool. I'm excited. Like, when I saw Crow come back, I cheered. I was like, yes, awesome. This guy has got such a sad story, but I'm so excited to see him here. When it first came out for 2 weeks, I put in like 100 hours into playing it, and I've still got meaningful quests and stuff that I want to get in and do because of the rewards that await me. And then beyond that, there's more weapons to farm for that I want to increase the power of my build so that I can have better synergy when I go into the raid. And it's just, overall, it's probably one of the best expansions to be released this year, and definitely one of the better.
It introduced one completely new destination in Europa, and it brought back a destination from Destiny 1, which was the Cosmodrome. But it's sort of like, it was almost like a remake. Like we talked about remakes and games yesterday. This is almost like a remake of it in that it's not just a reskin of it. They have new areas that have kind of like evolved and how that world has changed in the years since we've been there. New quests in that area, new strikes in that area that we haven't done before. And they brought back Randall the Vandal, which is very important. I don't know if you folks know about this, but there was like one enemy in Destiny just randomly in the world who was a Vandal. And he was very, 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 very hard to kill and sort of became like legend among Destiny players. So when we log back into Destiny 2 and the Cosmodrome's back, Randall the Vandal's sitting there. So like, it's like the first thing you do, like you head over there and see if you can kill Randall the Vandal or if he's even there. And I know it's separate. Like I said, the removal of content is a game update that happens whether you get Beyond Light or you don't. But What surprised me as Sam was talking is that I just remembered, like, I kind of complained about the removal of content myself, but I haven't done that in about a week because I don't notice it. Which I think is actually something to be, like, that's a feather in the cap of the update, is that there are so many things to do and more coming that we don't even know about because they like to surprise us. But there are things on the roadmap that we know are coming that aren't here yet. But there's so much content in it that I don't notice that other stuff is gone. Like, they've done a really good job of putting in really meaningful and engaging and interesting content into Beyond Light. It's one of my favorite expansions that I've ever played in Destiny, for sure. If not, like, possibly my favorite, but it's very close. Top 3 for sure.
50 to 100 hours of content is almost a new game. That's staggering and impressive.
Yeah. And I'm guessing
are we
that,
judging
and
the
Sam
quality of
says
the
he's
expansion
got-
just based on hours played, like hours of content available? To
No,
you?
not at all. Not at
No,
all.
no, 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 no.
But I mean, that can be a factor,
Yeah, it's
right?
Bill, what were you saying?
I was saying that, like, I was guessing at 50 to 100 hours because I've got 25 in the last 2 weeks, and I'm just looking at my quest log and going, like, I could just play this all day from now until Monday and still not be close to the end of not just hours played, Greg, but things that I actually want to do and things that I find interesting. Like, I log in and I have a hard time choosing what it is I'm going to do because there's about 4 or 5 or 6 things at any given moment that I want to be doing. And Sam to say 100 hours already and he has stuff to do is, I didn't expect that.
I guess my question now is, you know, the thing about Destiny 2 that really turned me off is, like, there was a lot of stuff to do, but not very much of it was actually relevant to getting me further in the game. Like, I had no incentive to do a lot of the side stuff. Has that changed at all?
I would say they've gotten a lot. That's fair. There's always been, not always been, but historically there's been a lot of things in Destiny that you sort of do this thing and it's not really connected to the narrative overall, or it's not really connected to, like, progressing it forward. That's not the case. Like, when I look at that quest log now, everything is connected to this idea. The darkness is coming. So the darkness is obviously evil, or at least it's supposed to be thought of as such. And the light, which is... and the light is supposed to be good, but those lines are getting blurred, and the entire narrative and pretty much every quest that you do, Blake, is now pushing the narrative of, like, evil is coming, but is it really evil, and are we evil, and so on and so forth. So I can't say every little thing you ever do in Destiny is connected to that main theme, like, directly, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now that's not connected to that idea, that overall narrative.
I wanted to, like, center in on that, Blake, because I think that's
good.
an interesting point you make. Like, do you think that applies to video games as a whole? Like, if you think about everything in Breath of the Wild except beating the divine beasts and killing Ganon to help Zelda, like, everything else is kind of disconnected from the narrative, and so I'm not saying I'm not saying that's a bad point. I just wondered how you drew that distinction in Destiny versus most other games, I'd say.
It's the carrot that gets dangled, right? It's your reasoning behind going out and doing that extra stuff. Like, it's the reward that you get. Like, what incentivizes you to do these little minimal tasks, you know? And the thing about Destiny 2 was there was all this stuff you could do. Very little of it really mattered unless you had, like, a daily bounty, and even those were fairly arbitrary at times.
Let me try to connect something for you, Blake. This might resonate with you. So I feel when I play, and this, I'll be very quick because it's not off topic, but a connection. When I play Ghost of Tsushima, I feel like almost everything I do is connected to the character and the story. But in Beyond Light, I feel that they aren't that far off. But I agree with you that historically, in the past, Destiny had a problem with that.
No,
but in Beyond Light, it seems more in line with, like, a Ghost of Tsushima, where you feel like what you're doing is important to your character's progression, your power levels, and the story. Like, it seems to have come together better.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Bill.
Got it.
Okay.
Totally.
Let
Yeah.
me take a moment to play foil here and champion something that never needed to be fixed. It just got better. Radioactive levels of 90s schlock that is in the form of Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath.
Oh,
So, first off, you get the return of Shang Tsung, Kerry Tagawa. I think I said that right.
The original Shang Tsung from the OG movie 25 years ago.
Your brother's soul is mine. You will be next.
Leading an entire new campaign in the game. Being the villain that he needs to be. The perfect Shang Tsung. Take that and add to it Fuhin, who everybody has been asking for forever. Shiva, who was already in the story for the game originally, but just not playable. And then
Molina.
Peter Weller voiced Robocop.
The OG Robocop. I can't believe they went there, man.
You're not mentioning Molina?
She came later. She came with Ultimate.
Molina's in the newest, in the recent.
Okay. Oh, this is Aftermath. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah. So now, not only do you have a Shang Tsung-led campaign with Kerry Tagawa, you have the opportunity to put Peter Weller voiced Robocop against Terminator. Robocop versus Terminator is a real thing in Mortal Kombat 11 in 2020. Oh my god. Everything about this was just like a culmination of all of the 90s geekdom schlock coming together in one beautiful bouquet.
It took a straightforward Mortal Kombat 11 story and it turned it into a huge mess, and you know what? I didn't even care. The story's a mess now, but you know what? Who cares?
Like, Aftermath is awesome. This isn't even an argument against that. I'm a Mortal Kombat nerd. Like, in middle school, through middle school and high school, teachers and students called me Mortal because I just blatantly sat in class some days and read Mortal Kombat strategy guides. Like, that was my first paid writing job. I took my strategy guide, wrote it all up in the school Mac lab, printed it out, and charged people for it. And I made a lot. But I've never liked the commercial based guest appearances. Like, really, the introduction of like Robocop and Terminator and Rambo, I'm like, oh, there's a slot that could be filled by a character who could actually return and affect the narrative. But that's just a me thing. It's not really an argument against Aftermath, because I think Aftermath is awesome. It also makes me want, like, instead of Injustice 3, I would love NetherRealm to create like a pop culture dream match game. Like, all of their guest characters in almost like what is that freeware Celebrity Deathmatch, but also what is that? Is it like Mugen, that free fighting engine? Yeah. That, but with AAA production values, I think would be incredible. And then NetherRealm doing it. But yeah, like, Aftermath is awesome, just to chime in with you guys.
My further argument for Aftermath is that Mortal Kombat 11 was already good. Mm-hmm. NetherRealm puts a lot of attention in the way they make their characters. Robocop isn't just in the game. He's a viable character with his own playstyle and viable strategies that make him worthwhile if that's the character style you want to explore.
I was so happy with the fact that they added story DLC, because that's something I asked Ed Boon about on the red carpet at the Game Awards a few years ago. I go, you guys have like released DLC characters, but have you ever considered DLC story, given what you guys have done with MK9 and MKX? And he said it wasn't on the table for MKX, but the fact that he did it for MK11 just made me so happy, and that he did this particular story with Kerry Tagawa as Shang Tsung. It's just excellent.
That's a first for the franchise, because when you think about it, their character updates go back to Ultimate MK3. That's basically what that game was.
Yes.
What Mortal Kombat Trilogy was, what MK4 Gold was, which I bought at launch and have no regrets. Yeah, like, Aftermath is just... It's a really cool thing. And to your point, TJ, I almost feel like NetherRealm rivals Nintendo in their ability to take a character and give it the TLC so that it feels like lifted directly out of its source material. Like, the fact that, like, in Smash, I could hit B to throw a Hadouken, or I could do down forward B to throw a fireball. Like, that level of detail is what NetherRealm gives to all characters, not just their babies, and I think that's really, really cool.
Right, because often you get guest appearances that are kind of underwhelming. Like, like either underpowered or in the case of like Yoda and Soul Calibur, stupid OP.
Or like Ronda Rousey in general.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's kind of the crux of Aftermath, is that it takes what NetherRealm has already been doing and just adds so many good elements to it that make it like flourish all the more. And they're not even done. Like they keep adding new cool stuff. Like I'm so happy to see Melina in that game. And that's aside from Aftermath. We're talking about the merits of Aftermath.
I can't believe they got Stallone. They got the actual Stallone. Like, yeah, I'll do more. Yeah. I'll voice Mortal Kombat.
You know what?
I'll do Rambo.
All right.
And I didn't realize that.
Bucket of their careers and will do anything.
No. I think that's disingenuous, but like I think that's really cool, and I didn't realize that right away because I know they didn't or couldn't get Arnold for Terminator.
They said Arnold was interested, but it was a scheduling conflict.
Oh, okay. So because when I heard Rambo, I'm like, oh, they got just like Terminator. They got someone who does a really good John Rambo, and then I realized like, oh shit, that's Stallone. That made it like all the sweeter, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
You want to talk about like adding to like what already made the game great? Donovan, let's talk Pokemon.
Yeah, I was waiting for this, Ozzy. So yeah, Pokemon did 2 expansions this year. The second one I think is the one me and you were kind of focused on, which was the Crown Tundra, which added an entire new location to the map, like obviously more trainers to battle more Pokemon to catch. But I think that's what they did, like with the legendary Pokemon. They added pretty much every legendary Pokemon in the franchise's history, and then the way they kind of revamped raid battles for you to catch them, turned Pokemon into like a straight up roguelite, which was really dope.
Yeah, I love the roguelite mode, which is like basically you're doing like branching paths, like you're doing like 4 straight fights. You have to survive all of them in order to get the legendary at the end. Mm-hmm. And you're either cooperating with like strangers or friends or whatever, or you're playing with AI. I don't recommend playing with AI necessarily because that doesn't get you very far. But that cooperative element to Pokemon is such a cool idea, and that they've expanded on that in such a way and make the rewards so worthwhile. I loved it just for that.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of addresses 2 of my biggest issues with Pokemon and Game Freak over the last few years. Is well, one, it's challenging. Like those raid battles for legendaries are really difficult. Like Pokemon has really like become more handholdy in the recent titles. This is probably the most like challenging Pokemon experience I've had in several generations. And then 2, this is like huge for the franchise because Pokemon's never done expansions. Like in that franchise's 20-something year history, they've never done expansions. They just print out a new game with minimal upgrades like they did with Emerald or Crystal or even Platinum.
Omega,
Yeah. So for them to not do like some sort of mix of Sword and Shield and call it like some random bullshit like Pokemon Gun or whatever people were speculating, for them to just like
Ultra Sword.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. I was like, they're gonna do Mega Shooter, Pokemon Sword 2, or for them to just put more story additions and expansions on this game, I thought was pretty big for that franchise. And
they make you work for those last legendaries too. Like catching the legendary birds, like they make you work for those, and I appreciate that. They
don't hand them to you, which they've been known to do in recent games. So I thought that was a pretty dope expansion this year.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love this. This Donovan is great. This passionate Donovan. I'm into it.
Oh, hey,
Donovan, talk about Pokemon, man.
Right?
Oh, you want to see Donovan get passionate? Talk to him about your shared game of the year, and then wait for him to change his mind like at the last minute. That is that is super passionate, Donovan.
Maybe your shared game of the year should have been better at holding his attention.
I don't know.
In Among Us style betrayal.
That was Donovan. That was
yeah, maybe Donovan was the trendsetter.
You are forever sus to me, Donovan.
For a second there, I was like, oh, he's not going to do the Resident Evil thing. He's going to actually bring up something that he went for the Resident Evil thing.
Yeah, I sure did.
Sometimes that betrayal. The Outer Worlds Peril of Gorgon?
Yeah.
Peril on Gorgon.
Peril on Gorgon?
I wanted to play this. I did not have a chance to play it, but Bill did.
Okay, and you know what? I would like to. If did anybody else play it? Because I know I talked a lot about Destiny, but I'd be happy to talk about it. I, through my own fault, forgot that I played this until I saw it on the list, and then I was reminded of it and instantly was like, oh yeah, and that was really, really good. So, Peril on Gorgon. I'm gonna put it in. Say I put about 20 to 30 hours into the DLC. I also think in true Outer Worlds fashion. If you want to beat it in 4 hours, you can, because you can just run to the place and shoot the guy and move on with your life if you want to.
The Pauly Shore method.
Yeah, totally. Like you can, but that's kind of speaks to how wonderful it is. Because as I was saying, and I'm going to repeat this because I don't know if we were recording at the time, but early on, I hit a bug where I was like really close to like reaching out to PR because I'm like, I'm screwed and this is a problem. And what it was that I needed to find an object to progress the main quest forward. And the game wouldn't tell me what that object was. There was no hints. There was nothing. There was no waypoints. It was like, have a conversation with this person, but that person wasn't giving me the dialogue options that I needed. And after a couple hours of being an idiot because I forgot what game I was playing, I promptly shot them in the face. And when they died, the game just went, this is the thing that you need. So I was able to, it's almost like a credit to the game because all games have bugs, but I was able to solve something that in other games, you would just be stuck. There wouldn't be another avenue to get around that. Like you're on this linear path. And in the Outer Worlds, I was really impressed that I was able to solve a bug using how open and accessible the mechanics are of just killing anyone you want. I actually had to kill everybody in the entire bar because they all got mad that I shot the NPC, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, you pulled a Blake.
You pulled the Pauly Shore method. Yes.
There's a bit of a bloodbath, but I will say this. After I figured out what I needed, I reloaded my save and the NPC was alive so that I could, because I didn't know if I needed that character or what I would be missing out on. It introduces new and fun weapons. It introduces several new locations. It actually revisits old locations with new quests. You have all of your same companions can come with you. You get new skills. You get increased to the skill cap. So you can actually like almost like overclock your skills to a point. And some of the new areas that you go to require that you have like more beefed up skills than you might have had before. And perhaps the thing that I think I described in my impressions piece for it, it doesn't change. It enhances the experience that's already there. It doesn't change it completely. It doesn't like really reinvent the wheel in terms of the Outer Worlds, but it pushes everything forward a certain amount. So
I guess
it's not.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I guess my question is it more? Does it feel more like DLC or more like an expansion?
It feels more like an expansion. Like it still is in the spirit of the Outer Worlds, and you can kind of like, it merges really well with the game. So it's not as if like the game is over here and the expansion is over here and they're separate from one another. Like they kind of, it like marries them together.
It's basically like a Borderlands expansion.
Yeah. So, and that's just it. Like you can start playing the expansion like midway through the game. Because it does have higher power levels, so you do need to hit a certain point, but it's not as if the end game is like, it's not like something that happens after the story. It's all contained within the same thing. So it actually made me want to start my playthrough over again, because with this new content, I had new things to consider, and I had like more like different priorities and playstyle that I thought would like work better, considering like this expansion is part of the experience, whereas before, you just had the rest. But yeah, it's kind of cool for people that are like, I don't have a lot of time, because you don't need a lot of time if you shoot everybody. But also if you want to be the explorer who like is trying to pick these locks and hack this door, hack this terminal, or follow through this like side quest, like that's all there. You don't have to do it, but it's there.
Did anyone else have any nominations?
Yeah, there's one more.
Yeah,
one more
like,
nomination.
I don't know how much I should talk about it though, because like I think I'm the only one on staff that plays the game. So like it's difficult to like, especially if you've never played WoW or never been into WoW, like you're never gonna be into it because it's that type of game, But just like with all their expansions, it's really polished, and like in terms of content, there's just so much to do. And the thing that really bugs me about Destiny 2, it's not just the removal of content, but what that tells me when they remove content from the game, whether it's to save size or redo it or just put it on hiatus for whatever, it tells me that they're not interested in getting new players. They're interested in just appeasing the top 10% of people who love Destiny, which is fine. I mean, mobile games do that a lot too. Like you want to focus on your community base, right? You're focused on your current player base, not new player base. But and WoW used to do that for years until this last expansion where they introduced a new island tutorial level, which takes about an hour to run through. And that island is so masterfully designed in terms of teaching people how this game works, what the structure is, how dungeons work, how instances work. Like it baby steps everyone through this island. It takes like exactly an hour to do, and it shows you how to play every class and just how everything works together and how the gameplay loop perspires.
I will say that WoW is still not necessarily my game, Greg, but I really appreciated that feature because one thing, when we previewed that expansion a couple months ago, they threw me in and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue what to do or like how any of the combat worked. The fact that they added this to kind of walk you through it, God, it's so needed, especially for a game like this that's like 15 years old now.
I just want to interject really quickly there and say that Destiny 2 did actually include a new entire quest line specifically for new players. They're not trying to ostracize new people from coming in. In fact, they're actually embracing them. Like, it's an entire quest line that takes you through the very basics of the game, from picking your subclass to like
your point
what
is
the hell
historically correct, Greg. Yes, that Destiny has been a game that is very hard to get into as a new player, but everybody over the years has been pointing that out to them, and in Beyond Light they revamped the onboarding experience for new players so that a new player doesn't walk into it and go like, you know, Ozzy did with the previous DLC, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's better, but take your, you know, talk about Shadowlands, but I'm just saying, like, they do have something there. It's not like it's completely void.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, so that's good. So they both have that then.
I withdraw my question.
The main thing that I really like about Shadowlands just in general is that game, WoW's an MMO, it always has been an MMO, but the way you progress in that game now is not like you did in the first 5 or even 6 expansions. The game feels more like an RPG than ever. The quest lines, how you complete them, and the story arcs they take you through feel like a real game and not an MMO, if that makes sense. You're still killing, 8 boars or collecting 7 crystals, but the path that it takes you on includes cutscenes and lots of voice work, and you feel like a purpose of like character identity that you did before. Before it was just class identity. Like that was the only thing you really had in WoW. Like, but your character feels like he's in this world, and even though all of them are experiencing the same thing, he feels like he's making a difference. Just like Link, he doesn't talk, but you feel that character identity with him. He's your Link. However you want, whatever colors you put on him, whatever visuals you want him, he's still yours. That's what I really like about the last 2 expansions, specifically this one. There's so much quality that goes into these quest buildings and these tier things, and there's also 2 sides of the story. There's the Horde side has a slightly different story than the Alliance side. You're going to interact with different characters, have different zones, different encampments, completely different quests than the Alliance side, which encourages you to go back and play from a different perspective. And it also has 5 dungeons, 1 raid that's currently not out yet, and then they have the Tower of Torghast, which is a procedurally generated dungeon where you push through and try to get as far as you can. It's a limited number of levels, and each level is like a slightly different challenge with different obstacles and enemies. And of course, you have to know how to handle those and the better rewards you get. There's so much to do in this expansion, just in terms of the dungeons and leveling. Like if you don't want to raid, you don't have to. Because they do things like add new pets for the pet battles, stuff like that. You can go on when you get high enough level, you can go back to past expansions and farm them so you can get gear to make your character exactly the way you want with their transmog system. I just think it's such and the thing I have with Destiny is at a certain point, and WoW's the exact same way, they're like, please grind for hours and hours and hours to get this weapon, armor, sword that's 3% better than the one you have now. And that drives me nuts, not just in Destiny, but in WoW. So I don't do that. But the fact that there is so much for me to do without having to go to the raid in this world, I think is what makes it such a good expansion.
But in fairness, I also haven't done the raid in Destiny 2, and I'm still, like I said, like completely full up of things to do. So I think it's, for me at least, from my perspective, like, what was the last raid, Sam? Last season or last expansion or whatever?
Garden of Salvation.
I've never done that. And I was one of the. I've never done Garden of Salvation raid, which came out like I don't know, a year ago. and I'm not struggling. Like I don't need that to get endgame gear. So
and even if Bill did play it, his rewards are independent of everyone else's.
That's just, and that's just some of the things I like about it in general. I think there's a lot more. I think team comp. I know team comp matters slightly in Destiny 2. You can still do a raid with 600s. It may be a little harder, but you can do it if you're communicating well enough. You need a tank and a healer and 3 DPS to get through dungeons and raids, and WoW. You need a appropriate team comp to do it, and it makes you feel a little more special when you have to tank. The responsibility of the group is to keep your group alive as the healer, or you have to keep aggro off your DPS as the tank. And that's something I feel that Destiny 2 is missing. Is just real. I know you have your subclasses, but I feel everyone can use the same weapons. And a hand grenade, a melee, and a special really don't separate myself. And I've played a lot of Destiny 1, and I really didn't even feel that there. I know, like I said, I know they've added subclasses, but I still feel there's a lack of just class identity overall, because everyone I feel plays very similar in terms of just their aesthetic. They shoot things until they die. I
think your point is good, actually. That I think that the system is much more demanding of that in WoW, and that's just going off of your explanation of it. I think there's decent class identity in Destiny, but I agree with you that, you probably could. And a lot of Destiny's activities, though, are designed because they're also trying to factor in the solo player. So, now that we have dungeons in Destiny, they're designed from the ground up for one player to complete, so that a solo player doesn't feel as if they're left out because they don't have a group of people to play with. So I think that kind of contributes to the whole, you don't need all 3 classes because they want one person. If they can't get a group together, they want one person to be able to do a solo, and then they build it up from there so that it's also engaging for groups. But no, you're right in that sense. You don't necessarily, there have been times in the past when you may have needed a certain character in Destiny for something, but it's not an overall common, you know what I'm saying? I do see your point there. It's not a theme that has existed through the course of the history of the game.
And then my final point would just be I think it's really impressive for how old the game is and how much these designers and directors have to think in this box of tech that they can't really get out of without completely rebuilding the game. And they've managed to keep it relevant and interesting and improve upon it. Even in the encounter designs. The encounter designs are still the same, but the way that it's hard to explain without doing it. The way that they do them, it's not just moving out of a circle. You know what I mean? There's different interesting ways that they kind of revolutionize this 15-year-old tab targeting system that makes everything feel fresh and interactive and engaging. And there are some just like in Destiny, there's some tank and spank people where you're just shooting at them for 30 minutes and they die and you don't have to do anything else really. Maybe get behind cover once in a while. But within this box of tools, they've managed to do so much with this game. And every single time I play the expansion, I go in kind of meh, cool, I'll play some WoW, but I end up leaving really impressed just about my journey and the story and everything I can do afterwards, and then the opposite side of the story, and of course there's also, we talked about class identity a little bit, but the faction identity of Alliance and Horde, that's gone again, which is unfortunate because it's always unite to defeat a common enemy, but I just think overall it's more impressive to see a game last so long with such a limited set of resource tools and still keep people coming back for more every time. That's my argument.
No, I'm actually rather impressed by your argument, Gregums. I gotta say, man, I feel like you made a really good case for Shadowlands here.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, you may have actually swayed my vote.
I think that was everything that was nominated. Yeah, we talked about Shadowlands, Aftermath, Pokemon, Outer Worlds, and Destiny Beyond Light. Anyone else have anything else?
I just want to say that all of these picks kind of got me really excited about. I didn't realize there's so much expansion, awesome expansion content this year. So I'm pretty excited about all these, actually.
I'll take one out of David's book.
Magical world. I'm
going to take one out of David's book and say all of the Animal Crossing expansions, but no, they're DLC. So, no, I don't think I have any other options for nominations.
This is really tough.
It is tough.
If we're voting, Shoot. What am I gonna pick?
This is a tough one.
We can go with the no-brainers. I'm going to be a Destiny guy. I mean, I'll say this though, to credit to Greg, is like I actually enjoyed your
I did too.
It's not going to sway me because I mean, like I'm not in your boots, but I thought you did. I thought like said that was a good argument, but for me, I've gone through 7 years of Destiny expansions, and like this maybe is the most impressed I've been. So it's Destiny 2 Beyond Light for me.
I think that's where the two games are very similar. Like, I mean, with Destiny, you either like it or you don't. There's no people that really dabble in it kind of like, 5 hours a week. Like you're either in it or you're not. And WoW's the same way. You either like World of Warcraft or you don't. You know what I mean? There's no in between with either of the games, I think.
We both like coffee, Greg. It's just different brands of coffee.
They're both.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I mean, they're both time consuming.
Yeah.
Bill's analogy is apt. Both of them are a caffeine addiction, but which caffeine addiction?
Which caffeine addiction is that better?
Okay, we're gonna have to vote. I got Bill and Sam down for Destiny 2 Beyond Light, and
Yes, sir.
Greg I have down for WoW Shadowlands. So we're gonna have to start it there and go from there.
I'm gonna say Pokemon, and that's with all respect to the WoW and Destiny arguments, which were both very compelling.
I mean, it sets a new precedent what Pokemon's doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty big too.
Yeah. I think I have to side with Ozzy on this Pokemon. Playing through like Sword and Shield originally, I wasn't very into it, but that expansion really kind of drew me back into it and like kind of opened things back up for me. So I got to side with Pokemon on this one.
Donovan, are you also on the Pokemon train?
I am. Even though I think it is really cool what they've done with the Shadowlands, because that expansion had got to the point where it was really, I guess, the expectations were high because they had delayed it, and the community was getting frustrated with it. So to hear that they actually delivered a quality product is damn good. But as a lifelong Pokemon fan, I can't not vote with what they've done.
Damn impressive to see
Crown
WoW
Tundra.
still be relevant in 2020.
Yeah.
16 years.
Yes.
One of the last MMOs that charges a subscription too. It's not free to play. It's like one of the
Yeah.
last ones that can get away with it.
Yeah, it's
Well,
really impressive how long it's been around.
man, as much as I was impressed with Donovan's Pokemon passion, he keeps complaining about how old he is. And I feel like Greg brought up some extremely valid points about just audience retention and making a game that has now lived through 3-4 console generations now,
2008.
Eight, so-
2000. No, hold on. More than that.
Yeah.
Burning Crusade was 2005. I think.
2004.
So yeah, you're talking.
Oh yeah, the base game is 2004.
Like 3.5 console generations.
Let's see, it's like almost the entire lifetime of every Xbox. Because the original Xbox still relevant?
Yeah. It lasted till November.
Okay, so and now Xbox 360, then Xbox 360, then Xbox One, and now the Xbox Series X. So this game has been relevant through 4 console generations. I can't think of I mean, there's a few other PC games that I think fall into that category as well, but I'm gonna give it to Shadowlands. I think there's some definitely solid arguments for that there.
Okay. David, have you voted yet? I don't think so.
I haven't. I have to say, I was pretty moved by Donovan's argument for Pokemon. It's definitely unprecedented for Pokemon to do this. Donovan, you're hearing this, right? That I'm swayed to your side.
Yes, I am. I'm hearing you.
Wait, I think I know what's about to happen.
Turn coming.
But you know what? But I'm going to change my vote. I'm sorry, man. I'm never going to let it go.
Well,
I actually, this was a lot harder. All kidding aside, every argument was great. I'm going to have to go with the Shadowlands argument. As someone who has knows a lot about Blizzard, has written a lot about Blizzard, the fact that they can still be receptive to their players and do things to 16 years later make this game appealing for new players as well as veteran players is pretty damn impressive. And Greg gave a great argument. Also, I just want to say to Bill in passing, what really intrigued me about your argument for Beyond Light, yours and Sam's, was this feeling of self-doubt of, wait, I think I might be the villain here. And if you're interested in that sort of narrative twist, keep playing Demon's Souls. I think Sam can back me up on that, but that just sort of made the pieces connected for me. But yeah, final vote, Shadowlands.
Okay, so I got you down for WoW. Steve.
You can put me down for Pokemon.
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 This is gonna be a close vote. I'm telling you right now.
It is.
Chris.
Pokemon.
Pika.
EJ?
Same with my Mortal Kombat vote. It was an expansion made very specifically for me.
It feels like everyone forgot about your really good case for Mortal Kombat.
It was a really good case.
I did not. Argument's been going.
You know what I'm hearing a lot around all these other expansions is that I have to spend 20 to 40 hours with them. I can flip on Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath and jump into a 2 to 3 minute match and then walk away.
2 to 3 midget match. Whoa.
minute.
Are you sure? Is this a wrestling game? Or?
I am voting for MK11 because I love Robocop.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, what did you vote for? I couldn't hear you.
He said Pokemon. So that is, let me count the votes. So that's 2 for MK11. And that is 1, 2, 3. Is that it? Just 3? Yeah, just 3 for WoW. And 1, 2 for Destiny 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes for Pokemon.
That's a damn shame.
We screwed up, Greg. We should have just come to a gentleman's agreement.
We should have formed an alliance.
20 years to improve the
We
series.
should have formed an alliance,
You
Greg.
should have formed an alliance,
man.
Greg. You don't pay attention to WoW enough.
That's awful.
And here come the pretzels.
And then
I'm honestly surprised
I thought
Pokemon
that
got
you
this
had
many
a chance.
votes.
I thought it was going to be. I didn't know it was going to be between Pokemon Sword and
nobody was
Axe.
going to
I didn't
vote for
know.
Destiny other than
Okay.
Bill and Sam.
I'm surprised by this outcome, but Pokemon Sword and Shield. What is this expansion called?
The Crown Tundra.
The Crown Tundra.
No, the Island of Armor.
The Isle of
there's
Armor
two.
and the Crown Tundra.
The Isle
Just say
of
expansion
Armor
pass.
and the Crown Tundra.
They're two separate expansions.
Wait a second.
Crown Tundra.
That's a
But it's
damn
the Crown
shame.
Tundra that we're giving the award to.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the one we were talking about.
Yeah,
where they added
that's the-
ring
I'll
light
take Crown
elements.
Tundra.
Crown Tundra is our Shacknews best expansion of 2020. It is decided.
What an upset!
What do you like to play?
Pokemon!
Pokemon? Pokemon with the pokey and the man in the thing where the guy comes out into the thing and he makes the fall.